Yeah, Brighton SEO, Friday afternoon. Last guest on the podcast, Owain Lloyd Williams.
Hi, thank you for having me. Very excited to be here, to be your final guest too. I hope you're not too tired, but I look forward to listening.
Just had
back.
a Red Bull, so we're ready
good.
to kick ass.
I'm full of energy.
Good, full of energy.
But this Brighton is your hometown, right?
Yeah,
What's your hometown?
ish. Yes, I grew up in a town just north of Brighton, a place called Haywards Heath, which is a bit of a nothing town. So I would say that Brighton is like kind of my spiritual hometown. You know, I went to university here. I came here a lot. I associate it with a lot of my younger years. So whenever I come here, I sort of regress into an 18-year-old again. You know, and associated with a lot of good times. So it's lovely to come back twice a year in the context of Brighton SEO.
And then you were able to speak on stage here.
Yes, I did a talk earlier. I finished about an hour ago. It was on the Skyline stage, sort of 2:30 or so, and it was about e-commerce migrations. So technical SEO, it's called technical SEO traps to avoid in e-commerce migrations.
Yeah. What are the technical traps to avoid in e-commerce migration?
Well, there were a few things. How long's a piece of string, really? I mean, there's potentially everything could go wrong.
Yeah.
In this particular instance, I called out a few individual things that happened on a piece of work I did about a year ago on a move on an e-commerce store of a musician, quite a well-known musician, moving from WooCommerce to Shopify. And I thought it would be quite straightforward. There's lots of documentation. I've done migrations before. You have experience, but there were just a few things that I didn't see coming throughout this process. A few kind of generic things too that I sort of missed out on and kind of should have known better, really. I think I've just been candid there. The biggest thing that went wrong with this one, and this isn't, I don't think, normal, in terms of normal migrations, it's that the artist individual website had a shared inventory in the back end with the record label site. So you had the record label site with all of the band listings on, all the individual artists, then you had the individual artist site, but they were shared in the back end. So that meant any change that happened on a URL structure standpoint was reflected on both websites. So that was a real mind-blowing thing that happened, and it meant that all of the stuff from the parent site was migrated over to the individual artist site. So you had all these random musicians being indexed and showing up. We're talking about things that went wrong. That was that's probably my biggest one, I think. I mean that was
great learning moment.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know how common that is in those sorts of situations.
Not that common, right?
I hope not.
I never heard this.
Did you see it happen after again one or two more times, or?
I've not seen it happen again. Interestingly, someone else came up to me after my talk and said, "I've had that experience too with a separate website, not in e-commerce, but with a similar sort of thing where the engineers had built the same sort of code base across 3 websites. Any change that was made on one was reflected in the other, which is just insane. I don't know why you would do that, and I'm trying to rack my brains as to how could I have seen that one coming. You ask a lot of questions when you come into migrations. You try and understand the business, the tech stack. I don't know what line of questioning would have got me to. Is it gonna copy over when
what kind of question do you ask to come up with this?
Well, I think maybe a common scenario for this might be like a multi-language website or a multi-country website, where they have like one central CMS managing the different countries, maybe?
Yeah, that definitely happens. And there's plugins, aren't there? There's like that WordPress multilingual plugin, which just effectively just duplicates all the hreflang across all the different pages and things like that. And it just kind of almost like programmatically generates it. Yeah. So I think there's kind of risks as well with that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And other traps to avoid?
Yeah, so
this is not the trap that I think most listeners will come up to.
That's a fair point. I went in quite hard on the niche one there. The biggest thing I think with these things is always going to be URL structure and making sure that you're capturing journeys when you're moving over from one platform to another. So WooCommerce, Shopify, for example, in this case study, have very particular URL structures, rules, stringencies around how they operate. You can get a bit of flexibility if you're, I guess, smart or you have the technology available. I didn't at the time. So we just had to make sure that all of the other journeys that weren't mapped out in the redirect file were taken care of. So there were lots of things that could have been missed. So the musician in question had listings across like third-party press sites, across social media, across ticket websites, you name it. We couldn't possibly capture all of those journeys. So we had to kind of come up with a wildcard redirect logic to help with that. That's quite a big one. I think also anything that's under the hood as well. You're talking about template changes when you're migrating over Shopify WooCommerce. Very different markup, HTML wise, very different content templates as well. So we lost out on lots of kind of rich content on the product pages, for example. We had to kind of retrofit that in the new instance. So yeah, a couple of examples there. I think URL pagination, internal linking. Those are big ones when you're replatforming.
Do you see certain platforms, certain types of CMSs bring in more traps, more problems than others?
Well, the biggest offender in my view has been Shopify. I don't want to kind of call it out too much, but it's kind of known for its inflexibility, isn't it, on URLs? Out of the box, I will caveat that. It's not like you can't do things with it.
The slash collections thing.
Exactly. Exactly. In the WooCommerce instance, we had all kinds of different subfolder journeys across that were great for different scenarios, like individual vinyl listings, merchandise, whatever it happened to be. Shopify was much more streamlined, and there was no way to kind of work through that. And also things like robots.txt file you can't mess with and things like that. It's just very sort of inflexible, really, out of the box. Yeah.
But did you make the platform choice yourself, or did the artist?
No, I didn't. I mean, I sort of just came in. It was above my head. It was a case of the parent record label site, the offending bit already being on Shopify, and they were just moving over to have it on one CMS. So I can't really answer that question in terms of what my preferred e-commerce CMS platform would be. I think they've all got their foibles. They've all got their kind of faults, haven't they? But I do tend to run into more problems with Shopify than others. Yeah.
When you say, I notice things the moment I get involved, do you? At what point do you get involved into a migration, and do you think it's on time, or are they always like, what? Oh, by the way, we're migrating in a couple of days and
on Friday.
At 6 p.m.
That has happened. I guess it's the old kind of adage of SEO getting them in super early, as early, from the beginning. Really, we should be involved in all these conversations on which platform, timelines, things to consider, because it just impacts every facet of the business, doesn't it? If it goes wrong, and you're not showing up, indexation goes wrong or ranking goes wrong, it's going to cost companies millions, right? And that's all SEO, isn't it? It's all user journeys. So I've had a variety of experiences where I've come in super late. I've had experiences where I've come in after the fact and they've just realized, it went wrong. Why was that? It's because you didn't think about SEO in the migration. So that still happens a lot. That's fine with me. Keeps getting me paid, keeps getting me work, but it's not great for people out there, is it? But yeah, I mean, in this particular instance, in this case study, I was in right at the beginning. They made a decision. They needed to find a consultant. I was brought in very quickly. The constraint was just a timeline. I think the development team had a deadline. The business owners wanted to get the shiny new thing done quickly, and there's never enough time, is there? To do everything you want to do. So yeah.
And when you're involved after migration. What's your kind of action plan to
I think it's always just the biggest thing is just keeping an eye on indexability, making sure that there's parity in what you've moved over from the old instance to the new one. So making sure that there's no disruption in things dropping out of indexation. That's a big one. On top of that as well, obviously ranking volatility, that will obviously happen at some point if you are, let's say, moving a domain or rewriting URL structure. That both those things can be impacted by that, but it's just making sure that that's not sustained long term. So it's constantly just checking Google Search Console, constantly checking traffic, checking ranking tools, whatever it happens to be. And just kind of, there's always going to be stuff that you miss. There's always going to be stuff that you retrofit a bit and stuff that you can kind of add on after the fact because you just didn't have time or the opportunity to do it during that migration process. So I think it all just continues on.
Yeah.
Throughout into eternity.
I think in the SEO industry and especially in the Netherlands, there are some cases where domains are migrated, and the thing is that the drop is always the longest when brands change.
Yes.
When domain migrates. Do you also have advice for our listeners on that part? So if I want to change my
branding.
What should I do when it comes to migrating domain?
Yeah, so you're talking about a full brand name change,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, the most difficult ones I always call them. But
I mean, there's so much you need to cover, and if I went through everything, it would take a while. There's all kinds of checklists available online. I think I mean, I guess you'd start with just redirect mapping. I think that's the most important thing to get ahead of, and then you can kind of work through all the other things like content audits in between, checking staging and making sure there's things like the canonicals are doing the right thing. There's the right schema markups there as well. But I think you start with that thorough redirect mapping and making sure that you've got everything mapped out correctly to the new URL structure and all those journeys are catered for. And obviously that then, once you have gone live and you've done all the things in between that I mentioned, that's things like getting the sitemap sorted out. It's things like, I guess, submitting new requests to Google to make sure that is indexed as well. Yeah. Internal linking to new pages where possible. I mean, there's so much to do, but I think it is all about just a thorough and clean experience from a redirect point of view. Really. Yeah.
Should we as SEOs maybe more proactively communicate out into the world about the dangers of migration, so that you're not called after the fact?
I think this is one of the biggest problems we have as an industry. We sit in a silo. There is that kind of cliche that that the SEO team is kind of separate from the marketing team, from the product team, and I understand why businesses can think like that, but I also think it is kind of inherent on us to reframe our positioning and reframe our importance in the journey. We're not just about technical stuff or content or traffic. It's the entire thing, isn't it? It's the entire pie, and we touch UI, we touch journeys, we touch anything that siphons out to kind of paid search as well, social. Like it's the whole kind of holistic, it's a bit cliche, but it's that kind of whole holistic circle.
But how will we do that?
Oh my! I mean, never had an answer for that. I think
TikTok videos, dances, dances around migrations.
We do
LinkedIn targeting on your own company.
I think I've sort of framed a problem without a solution, haven't I? So it's a classic thing. So whenever I come into a business, I'm always trying to again break down those silos. Cliches, adages, platitudes, but it is a thing. It is true. It's about just getting in the room where possible, and it takes a bit of time. It takes a bit of adjustment for people that have their things like they're in charge of content, they're in charge of dev. SEO is a separate thing, but they're all intertwined. Right?
How do you try to get your foot in the door properly in the organization?
I can be a very annoying person. So, I just keep. Honestly, I mean, it's just persistency. I think you can.
Is it also showing the dangers, maybe? Because I think there, in the last couple of years, I've seen quite some horror stories coming out, like I think what was Ryanair disappearing completely from Google Flight because of a missed migration, things like this. So showing the horror stories to make them aware, like, guys, you need to be aware.
Yeah, and you raise a very good point. Examples, data, forecasting. You can spin up some numbers to say, like, if this goes wrong or if you don't bring an SEO at this time, you're going to lose this amount of revenue. We have if you have access to analytics and forecasting over time and potential ranking drops, you can pull that together quite easily and put that in front of the right people. Absolutely.
Right now, you're also losing your entire AI search strategy and visibility, right?
And that gets the attention of the CEO.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
I think maybe that's the shortest answer right now. Tell the CEO we're not visible on ChatGPT anymore.
Yeah.
And then
as oftentimes as succinct as that, because obviously we're, as I said, going back to the problem, we as SEOs tend to sit in our silos and talk to each other, and we know what we need to do, and it's all kind of like all the individual technical stuff that is so important. But like if you're trying to communicate that to a senior stakeholder like a CEO, all they want to know is what's the bullet point. What am I missing? And as you said there, that's an example. Am I visible in ChatGPT? How much money am I making every month? Has that gone up? Has that gone down? And what can SEO do around that?
Yeah, this CEO is not sitting in auditorium 2 now. So
no,
he won't attend Brighton SEO.
But he's sitting on the toilet doing ChatGPT, asking some questions, and he thinks, "Why is my brand not here?"
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
And I think that's one of the things some of our guests told us as well. Like, this entire ChatGPT LLM thing is for the first time really opening us doors to get away from the silos, because now all of a sudden the CEO is thinking like, hey, we need to be in ChatGPT, and as a result, it's easier to get some budget flowing.
Absolutely.
Also from a negative perspective. So if if Ryanair fucks up a migration, then they have a problem in AI search as well in long term. So
no, you're right. Absolutely. I think it's someone yesterday said it was a very sexy time to be in search. Now, I never thought I'd hear that in my lifetime. But I think he's 100%.
I'm a very visual orientated person.
I apologise, but you'll see it rightly or wrongly. You're seeing, job descriptions for AI search optimization, GEO experts. Cool. We can pick and choose around how we say it, and we can be snobbish about it's just SEO. But the fact of the matter is, money is being thrown at this now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a sexy time to be in search.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your visualization.
It's money.
I'm not sure I can sleep tonight.
Just money. Yeah.
I thought it was sexy. Doesn't matter. All right. I think we are at the end of this podcast. We have one most important question, I guess, and that's, what is your biggest SEO fuck up?
I'm very good at my job, so there's none. No, I mean there's a litany of them. I suspect. I think
I learned from it. So.
Yeah, we always learn from things. I think that example I used there, I don't know if I can be necessarily blamed for that particularly because it's quite edge case. But I think whenever it was around sort of COVID time. I had my first in-house head of SEO job. It's about 7 years ago now, I guess. Yeah, 6 years. And at the time, there was a Google update, and COVID had hit, and there were a few things going on around things that impacted top-of-funnel metrics to the website in terms of rankings and visibility, and obviously clicks as well. And I did a pretty poor job of communicating that, I think. And I got a call from a CMO being like, what the hell's going on here? Everything's going wrong. I had to spend a lot of time explaining and reassuring and things like that. So my biggest... Are we allowed to swear? We are allowed to swear. You just did. My biggest fuck-ups are usually around communication. Not so much anymore. I don't think I'm necessarily bad at that, but I've learned from being bad at that in the past.
Manage expectations or communicate properly to the CMO.
Exactly.
When shit hits the fans.
Exactly. And I'm sure there's plenty of examples of me launching a site with a no index tag or blocking a subfolder in robots.txt. I don't know. But yeah, my biggest fuck-ups have historically been around just framing expectations and communication. So I think that's it. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for being on the pod.
Thanks for having me. That was great. That was really fun.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
And have fun today.
Yeah. You guys too. Yeah. How well? You're finished now, so enjoy yourselves.
We're going to watch the final keynote.
Of course.
So we do.
Dr. Pete.
Dr. Pete.
Don't miss that.
He was a guest here today as well.
Was he? Oh, brilliant. Okay. Well, I'll listen back to that one. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Well, thanks again.
Thank you.